business owners and executives from around the Valley. This is Business Leaders with Lance Cardoza.
Good morning, and thank you for watching Business Leaders here at KMPH Fox 26. My name is Lance Cardoza. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Flooring Liquidators, for making this episode and past episodes of Business Leaders possible. This week, we're talking about something big, something really big for our valley. We're talking about $23 million big. I have from the EDC, the Vice President of Business Development, Will Oliver, and also Chris Zeitz. And Chris, you're the Director of Special Projects at the EDC. And a lot of people wonder, they hear about the EDC and then what does the EDC do? Our Economic Development Corporation, and they support businesses here in the Valley, attracting businesses, retaining businesses. Well, give us an insight for the viewers that are watching here on KMPH, a little bit about the EDC.
Sure. Well, thank you, Lance, and thank you for having us this morning. The Fresno County Economic Development Corporation is a nonprofit. We've been in operation since 1981, and we provide a full range of services for the Valley's local businesses. We have a team dedicated to working with existing companies, helping them grow, keep their doors open, making sure that we're assisting them to find talent and fill jobs, as well as a staff that work on recruiting new industry, new businesses here to help diversify our economy and bring in new jobs and investment and really help our communities grow. So that's us in a nutshell. So we started 41 years ago with a staff of 5. Today we have a staff of over 20 providing a wide range of services for Central Valley's businesses.
I'm very familiar with the EDC. I've worked with you guys and working on some events, and we have some of the best events. I've got to be a little partial to any of the events here in town, and we bring some of the best content and we deliver some amazing news all the time. Chris, with the EDC, we talked a little bit about 23 million. Let's scratch the surface about Good Jobs Challenge. I know both of you worked very tirelessly and probably putting this together.
Yeah, the Good Jobs Challenge, the announcement came out in the summer of last year, and we met with a lot of partners right off the bat, dissected the application and said, okay, how do we, as many of us as possible, fit into this and put together as competitive a proposal as possible. An interesting aspect to this grant, this financial award for our region, is that it comes from the Economic Development Administration. It very much focuses on what is needed to catalyze economic growth in the region. And if you look at the economic development strategies for the region in which we created our partnerships, Fresno, Madera, Kings, and Tulare counties, all the economic development strategies spoke to an issue in terms of workforce development and need to have higher skilled workers available, or a shortage of higher skilled workers that results in difficulty at businesses. And then also a need to attract and diversify the economy through new businesses grown here locally or brought in from other parts of the country or the world. So in part of our proposal, we highlighted that element. You know, this is a unique, perhaps once in a generation opportunity. We said this is what this region needs to address these two issues. There's a chicken and egg problem here. We can't do one without the other. So we asked for a large external investment to catalyze that change.
When that news came over, and I know you probably weren't expecting, you're probably expecting something, or a letter that maybe on the next round we will look at Fresno or look at the Valley.
Yeah.
But Will, when that news came over, and Chris, when you found out that 23 million of investment was going to come back here to the Valley, what did that do to you at that moment? A lot of hard work goes into that, right?
Yeah, it was both overwhelming, but more importantly, gratifying to know that, you know, we were able to compete with some really phenomenal communities, foremost leaders in workforce development and innovation, and so it was very rewarding to see the federal government, the Biden administration, recognize our efforts here in the Valley, in Fresno County, and not only show up with some resources, but really double down with our plans and our ambitions. We did not hold back whatsoever when we applied for this grant. We lived up to every bit of the word challenge. We decided we're not going to lay up, we're going to go for the pin, and we're not going to leave anything off the table. And so to get that announcement, that call, that we are one of 32 awardees, I think there are over 500 applications throughout the U.S.
Wow.
It was very rewarding.
In a big way. And then probably a shock, like, we got to go to work now. Now we got to put this $23 million to work. Chris, talk to me about that. The vision of sort of now the reward came, but now it's time to get to work. It's time to find the partners. It's time to bring this all together. I'm sure that's been EDC's primary focus since this has been announced.
Yeah, the announcement was in early August, although activities really started in early September. So they kind of gave us a month to sort of digest the news, which was nice, and we tried to start our work on it as soon as possible because we know it was a very daunting challenge to do this, and it still is. An interesting aspect of the grant was that it really had to be employer focused, so we had to say that employers were going to hire directly from these programs, and then it also had to be industry sector focused, and we had to have a sector lead for each industry. Now, where that comes in as an advantage for starting this program is that there's another organization that has agreed to take on that responsibility. And those partners are the Fresno Workforce Board in construction, the Fresno Madera K-16 Collaborative in Business Services, San Joaquin Valley Manufacturing Alliance in manufacturing, and the Madera Workforce Board in transportation and logistics. I should also mention the Tulare Workforce Board is going to just kind of help out with the South Valley because that's a big area. So knowing that we had those partners, they were already committed, we had already done an initial sketch, or more than a sketch, about what the program would look like, is really helpful. But now we're at that point where we have to start to really make sure our plans are solid. And we're, now it's getting into contracts and performance reports, financial reports.
It's becoming very real.
It's becoming very real for everybody.
It's becoming very real for everybody because you're really going to put that to work now. In the EDC prior to this, I was familiar with the truck driving school. There was a shortage of truck drivers in the valley, so it's very similar. Is that a good jobs challenge, is to be able to do programs like that, which I'm sure that might have helped be a little bit of a catalyst in helping get this grant because you're already doing the work before you asked for the help.
Absolutely. I think that's what makes our organization unique too and very competitive in this national effort, is that we've been doing workforce development work for some time now, partnering with the Department of Social Services and funding programs like truck drivers training.
I don't mean to interrupt you. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we want to talk about that Good Work Challenge. We'll be right back here on Business Leaders. Welcome back to Business Leaders. If you'd like to catch this episode of Business Leaders or past episodes, make sure you go to businessleaders.tv. Also, we're getting close to the 40 Under 40, the ultimate networking event. It'll be held at Chachansey Park on December 1st. And in studio, we've been talking to the EDC with Will Oliver and Chris Zeitz talking about the 40 Under 40. And I want to get back to what we were saying before the break, Will, but we have an honoree in the room. It was quite interesting how we broke the news to you too, Chris.
My last year of eligibility.
Yeah, she just barely slid in. So on December 1st at Chachansey Park, we'll be celebrating with Chris, 39 other people, recognizing some of our top business professionals and community leaders and people that really make a difference here in our valley for the 40 Under 40. And people can go to 40.com and you can be able to pick up tickets and come down and celebrate with Chris and some of the other brightest here in the valley. And Will, you wrote the nomination, so not only were you part of this grant writing, but you put a good nomination in, and Chris just barely got in before you were ineligible. But so that's going to be a great event. But Will, you were talking about we're talking about really putting the grant to work and what the EDC has done. And the opportunities. We talked about the truck driving schools, and we talked about with the Good Jobs Challenge. So talk to me more about maybe sort of the vision of what type of Good Jobs challenges will we be meeting here in the Valley with that grant?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I want to provide some additional background. Our organization is unique in that we've been doing workforce development for some time. We have a fantastic partnership with the Fresno County Department of Social Services, funding welfare to work recipients, helping them get into high demand jobs. And as part of that, we've been able to fund in-demand training programs, like our truck drivers training program that we started with the late John Lawson. And so with Good Jobs, what we did is we looked at the hiring landscape where we had top demand industries and occupations. So Chris mentioned the four sectors that we are prioritizing. And in doing so, we're not only going to create new training programs that may not be present today, we're also going to be expanding and scaling existing best-in-class programs. So that John Lawson truck drivers training program that we do with the Department of Social Services, we will be doubling that capacity, making it available to many other job seekers. We'll be taking preeminent pre-apprenticeship programs here that have been quite successful in Fresno, expanding those, making them available in rural parts of the Valley or in other locations. And as we've said several times before, our workers here in the Valley don't care about geography or political boundary lines. They care about being able to realize a good paying job. And so we're going to try to meet people where they are and make those opportunities available.
During the break, we talked about businesses, restaurants, trying to find good workforce and people to go in and fill those jobs. It sort of makes sense. It's sort of hand in hand, like you're talking about the chicken or the egg, Chris. You know, what comes first, but really it's good paying jobs. So with that workforce training, like I saw with that program with the truck driving school, you're seeing people that probably would have never had the opportunity to get a good paying job in a career that they could go far with, Chris. So it's sort of, that's sort of the plan and the Good Jobs Challenge, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And part of this with this additional funding, a lot of these programs have been around for a while, but they're only eligible for certain people. And as Will said, sometimes there might be a program in Fresno, but maybe it's a resident in Madera County that wants to go to it. But maybe, and even though that's a normal work commute for some people, they might not be eligible for one reason or the other, geography, what programs they're part of. So with the Good Jobs Challenge, we're going to be able to cover more of those individuals. We're going to be able to coordinate better across county lines with the existing programs that we have, but then also provide perhaps the same training program, but bring it out to a rural site and have recruitment out from a number of rural cities, but provide that there so they don't have to come into Fresno every day while they're still looking for a job.
Makes total sense. Will, so you're talking about putting programs together with your partnerships. It's also finding the people that are looking for those programs, correct? And people are probably watching the program here, business leaders, and they're saying, I know somebody that would be perfect for this. So what steps are being taken by the Fresno County Economic Development Corporation to do that side of the business, or do you do that side? Absolutely.
So I think the first step with this grant, or really investment, is taking a step back, looking at the entire landscape, seeing where some of the gaps exist, especially when it comes to communication, marketing those opportunities, meeting people where they are. Matter of fact, last week I was touring a welding facility, seeing what their current program's like, and I asked a young gentleman how he heard about that program, and he said his barber. So part of our plan is activating local community-based organizations that are trusted in neighborhoods throughout Fresno and the Central Valley, and seeing how we can integrate them into workforce development and recruitment and marketing these opportunities in a way that's contextualized for anyone. And I think that's something that perhaps EDCs or workforce boards or other folks in this space may struggle with. And so it's an opportunity for us to really think creatively and do things a bit differently in how we communicate those opportunities.
And be able to provide that opportunity for people to take care of their family and grow into a career where they can elevate it and be able to do something with it. When we come back here in a little bit from our break, and I want to remind everybody, if you're watching this episode and you want to be able to share it with somebody, you can get this episode on podcast. So if you go to your favorite podcast provider on iTunes, Spotify, and you search Business Leaders with Lance, You'll be able to also get it on a podcast. But when we come back, Chris, maybe if you can elaborate a little bit about some of the exciting opportunities too, also with the grant that you see on the horizon, and then where do we go from there? And then talk about the EDC. How do businesses get involved? Businesses might be watching this saying, you know what, I want to find out more information about the Fresno County Economic Development Corporation and how that fits into my business when we return here on Business Leaders at KMPH Fox 26. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Business Leaders. Every Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. I bring you business leaders right here on KMPH Fox 26. Make sure you go to businessleaders.tv to catch this episode and others. Will Oliver with the Fresno County Economic Development Corporation and also Chris Zeitz. We've been talking about this $23 million grant, but there's many other opportunities for a business to get engaged and get involved with EDC. But before that, Chris, we were talking about where do you see this going in the future? A lot of eyeballs are watching our valley and seeing this 23 million go to work for the Good Jobs Challenge. What do you see?
So it's a little scary for us, but it's a huge opportunity for the region. The Economic Development Administration out in Washington, D.C. has said that this is their intent with this grant is to start up a more coordinated workforce ecosystem and see what works, learn from, and we'll be in D.C. next month meeting with the other 31 awardees, learn from what's working, make adaptations when you need to make them. And like you said, this is going to bring a lot of attention to our region, hopefully a lot of investment, not only just with workforce, but hopefully that starts to pique some interest with other types of investment, capital, business investment. So it's a huge opportunity, and a big part of what we're hoping to do with this program is to make this sustainable. So if we introduce a new program or we bring a new program or bring an existing program to a new space or a new population, we are hoping that after the federal funds run out, that we have a lot of additional resources that are available to keep it going, especially the things that are really producing dividends. And we had talked about how businesses could get involved. We do have a landing page on our website, fresnoedc.com/goodjobs. Spell it all out like that, or Google Fresno EDC Good Jobs. And if you're a business right now, we'd love to hear from you and hear what you need for not only your skills, the type of workers you need, but the training programs you use or the ones you'd like to see.
You talked about touring a welding facility, and I've heard for many years, my sister's a teacher in welding, and they're constantly looking for welders.
Absolutely.
And there's not enough. But it's everywhere, the nurses and welders and truck drivers, and there's so many opportunities for us to create good paying jobs. By becoming a part of the EDC as a business, talk to me about some of those benefits and becoming a member and supporting what we're doing in the future. And also just thinking, Chris, when you're talking about the Good Jobs Challenge, attraction and retention of a good workforce, it's got to be very powerful for what you're doing.
Absolutely, it's the top requirement or incentive available to a prospective company. So we work with many partners, and we are proud to have a board of directors of 40 individuals that represent a wide variety of industry and civic life. And then we have over 100 donors or investors into the EDC that believe in our mission, that support these projects, and they help provide the resources necessary that allow us to really create and do things unconventionally. And so it's incredibly valuable to have that support. What that also does, though, is make our staff of over 20 available to help any and all businesses, regardless of size, regardless of what their needs are. So sometimes it's helping someone go and get necessary permits at City Hall, or perhaps it's identifying tax credits or financing or other growth resources that can enable them to keep their doors open and possibly grow. I mentioned that we've been doing workforce for some time. We have dedicated staff that are working with local companies helping making sure that they're able to participate in those programs, access really good talent, receive a financial incentive benefit for doing so. And so we're a pretty dynamic, multifaceted organization. We provide these services free of charge with confidentiality, and we're available to help. So please contact us.
And if anything, too, with businesses, I've seen it's the networking opportunity to be a part of the EDC and rub elbows with those 40 board members and to do more business and help each other and learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of that going on, especially at the events, because I get to see it at that level. But it starts at the top.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you applied for a grant, you did a great job of the grant, but I know that the leadership of the EDC shined through on that. And
Absolutely.
Your CEO with the EDC, and I'd be remiss not to talk about Leanne,
Mm-hmm.
but she's the chairwoman of the
Mm-hmm.
CTC, which is the Transportation Commission.
Yep.
That's a powerful, powerful position for someone right here in our county.
Yeah.
Running the Economic Development Corporation, you have a great leader,
Yeah.
and she's not afraid
No,
to
not
go
at all.
knock on a door
Not at all.
and show up and say, I'm here and I've got something to talk about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the talk to me about that with the EDC. Do you feel that cohesiveness of with a leader like Leanne?
Oh, absolutely. She is a visionary. She is very bold. She does not take no for an answer, especially when it comes to advocating for long-deserved resources here in the Central Valley, and especially in her capacity as chairwoman of the Transportation Commission, it's provided our region significant visibility.
Mm-hmm.
So it made sense to make sure that we were focusing on the transportation sector when it comes to job training, when it comes to pre-apprenticeships. We were, in anticipation of, the bipartisan infrastructure law that's going to that funding that's going to be coming down the pipeline, and doing so in partnership with agencies like Caltrans. So certainly Leanne in those different positions and her advocacy for the Valley has benefited us tremendously.
Awesome. Well, we're getting down to the end of the program here on Business Leaders. Chris, I wanted to be able to tell you congratulations, well deserved. It was actually pretty funny how you found out. I know Leanne tortured you a little bit and said, bring him in the office. We're going to talk to him. You saw all
End
these
of the
people
day.
sitting in the office at the end of the day, like on a Friday, and she was like, oh, this is going to be fun. And we let him know he's going to be in 40 under 40. So December 1st, and anybody can find out information of the rest of the class at 40, the letter U, 40.com. Thank you so much,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Thank you,
Great.
Will, for
Of
being on
course.
my program. That's all the time we have. Business Leaders every Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Catch us right here with another mover and shaker.